On this edition of Read with Ronald, I read Walter Mosley's Devil in a Blue Dress, and I watched the 1995 movie adaptation of it. Before we get into this, I want to let you know that this book has mentions of molestation in it, it has murder in it, and it has police brutality in it. I want to let y'all know that I'm going all into this plot of both the book and the movie. I'm going to be talking about it, diving into it. So if that's not something you want to hear, or if you plan on reading this book or even watching the movie, thanks for watching up to this point. Go ahead and feel free to click off here. And who knows, if you feel like you want to come back and decide whether you want to see if you agree or disagree with what I have to say after you watch the movie or read the book, well, feel free. First published in 1990, Walter Mosley's Devil in a Blue Dress follows Ezekiel "Easy" Rawlins on his first case as he tries to track down the elusive Daphne Monet, a white woman known to prefer the company of black people. 30 years after its publication, Mosley stated his intent for writing the book was to highlight black life in Los Angeles and the black contribution to American culture. Devil in a Blue Dress is the first in a series of books starring the character Easy Rawlins. Devil in a Blue Dress won the 1991 Shamus Award for Best First PI Novel. My history with this book goes back to, I want to say, college, sophomore year. I was heavily into reading mysteries at the time. I was looking for a mystery story with a black protagonist. And so I went on Barnes & Noble, because that's where I used to buy my books. I went on Barnes & Noble's website, and I basically looked up African American mysteries, and Devil in a Blue Dress came up, and I was like, what is this? So I clicked on it, and I started reading the sample. And I read the sample and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I considered buying the book. So when I went to look at the price, it was too expensive for me at the time. So I didn't buy it. And that was the most I had read of Devil in a Blue Dress up until this year. But basically what happened was last year I was like, I want to read a mystery book again. So of course this time I'm knowing about Easy Rawlins. I was like, that name sounds familiar to me. But I didn't know why. I still don't know why. But I was like, I want to read a book. And so this time, I knew about Easy Rawlins. I knew about Devil in a Blue Dress. I knew about Walter Mosley. I was like, you know what? Let me go look at that book again. So I went and I looked at it, and I found a place where I could get it for cheaper. So I bought it. With that being said, back in college, I was working on a story. It's not one of these. It's not one of these. It's a different story. And I'm not going to beg y'all to buy them, but if y'all want to go ahead and buy them, go ahead and buy them. I was doing research for another story I was writing that is not going to see the light of day. Ever. Yeah, so I used to be one of those writers who would assign songs to characters. You know how in anime, like each character got a little song that's for their character? I used to be like, oh, that's their character song. And y'all might be getting a little glimpse into my dark origins as a writer. But basically, there was this song called Devil in a Blue Dress. And I was like, so does this book have anything to do with that song? That was just something that was interesting to me. I was like, hey, there's a song with this book name. I wonder if that's a reference. But that's my history with this book. Today's February 26th. I've started reading Walter Mosley's Devil in a Blue Dress. I read the first half of the book like this morning. I'll probably read the other half tonight. This is a really easy book to read. So we start the book off with Easy Rawlins. His full name is Ezekiel Rawlins, but he goes by the name Easy. Easy is from Houston, and because I'm a black boy from Texas, I'm like, hey, I know those places. Easy's from Houston. I'm not from Houston, but I am from Texas. He is a war vet who used to work at a aircraft hangar that like built airplanes, but he's been recently fired. So he's looking for another job. And so we start the book off with him. He's at his friend Joppy's bar. Joppy is an ex-boxer. He was a heavyweight. Easy is there getting him a drink. And this man walks in. This white man named DeWitt Albright walks in. And Joppy, knows him really well. He says they're old friends. And basically Joppy has contacted DeWitt Albright because Albright needed a man to do a job. And Joppy's like, hey, I got a guy. And the guy was Easy. Joppy's like, I got a man here, Albright, who is looking for a man to do a job for him, and I suggested you because I know you need money. And so basically Joppy recommends Easy to Albright because he's like, oh, Easy's just been laid off his job. He's looking for work. He's got a high school diploma. He's a war vet, so he's a good man. And basically Joppy just hyping him up to Albright, and Albright's like, okay, cool. So Easy and Albright talk, and Albright basically explains that his business is basically like somebody will ask him to do something, and he does it, and he don't ask questions. He's basically like a middleman for people. Easy says that Albright reminds him of this guy he knew in Houston named Mouse. And the job he wants Easy to do is he wants Easy to find somebody. And Easy, he's like, he's kind of iffy on it because he's like, Albright seems shady, so he's like, he don't want to really get entangled with him. But at the same time, Easy like, I got a mortgage on a house that I need to pay because I want to keep my house. So he's considering taking the job. Albright's like, let me know what you think. Come drop by my place anytime after 7:30. And he gives him a card and he's like, and if you still on the fence, just check my stats with Joppy. And so Albright leaves and he tells Easy to check his stats with Joppy. So that's what Easy does. He goes over to Joppy and he like, Joppy, who is this man? So Joppy met Albright before the war when he was still boxing. He basically is like, yeah, Albright is into some shady stuff, but all you got to do is keep your head down, do what he tell you to do, and you'll get paid. And I suggested you to him because you need a job. And I know you needed a job, so I wanted to do you a favor. And so we find out that Joppy's bar top is a Marvel bar top that he inherited from his uncle when his uncle died. It was from his uncle's bar in Houston. And so basically Joppy has taken that bar top into his new bar and he keeps it and he like constantly polishes it and is constantly cleaning it. And like that is like his prized possession. Easy is a little bit jealous of Joppy because Joppy owns the bar, and if Joppy sold it, he can make some money off of it. Easy's dream, his dream is to own property. That's his dream. He wants to own something that he can call his own. And that's why he's considering taking this job, because he has this mortgage on this house that he loves and he really wants to keep his house. He does not want to lose his house. And so that's why he's considering taking the job. And so Easy decides to drop by Albright's location at night. He comes across this man. It's this white man who's like, why are you here? And Easy can't remember Albright's name because he does this thing where like whenever he feels like he's in trouble with white people, he will throw everything out of his mind because his philosophy is the less you know, the less you can get in trouble. So he does that instinctively and he forgets why he's there. And so then when he finally does remember, the guy is like, well, why do you expect me to believe you? Basically, the guy gives Easy a hard time, and Easy basically, he get fed up. He's like, look, if you're not gonna let me in, well, tell Mr. Albright that I was here. So Easy goes to leave and the guy's like, well, wait. And so he goes and basically comes back a few minutes later. He's like, this way. And so Easy, he's shown into another location where some guys try to pat him down, but Easy's not going for it. And so basically they let Albright know that Easy is there and he's refusing to pat down, and Albright's like, it's all right, just let him in, he's good. Easy makes this comment about how like the guys were like in and out his life just like that. And he's like, his father was like that, his mother wasn't much better, so Easy doesn't really have the greatest of relationship with his parents. And so basically they go in there and they talk, and Albright fills him in some more on what he wants. And so Albright basically wants Easy to find this girl named Daphne Monet. She's a white woman who likes the company of black people. He just wants Easy to find out where she is and tell him the information. He wants the information by the next day, and he's willing to pay Easy up front. But Easy's kind of reluctant because he's like, I don't want no trouble with the law. Albright's like, oh, well, I don't want no trouble with the law either. So as long as you do what I tell you to do, we won't have no trouble with the law. Albright, he basically talks like a big game to Easy about like businessmen. They're always like holding on to all these secrets and stuff like that, and they basically look down on their workers and stuff. I'm very upfront. I'm honest about everything I do. And he basically pays Easy up front. He gives him $100 up front, and he's like, look, I pay you this up front, and if you do a good job, I'll throw in a bonus. And so Easy takes the job, and they get to talking like old friends, basically just, you know, telling stories about their lives and stuff like that. And at the end of their time, DeWitt basically lets Easy know, hey, I won't hesitate to kill, which is basically like a veiled warning to Easy, like, if you cross me, you're gonna die. He tells Easy to start at this illegal nightclub that is run by this guy named John. And Easy knows the nightclub very well. So he goes down there, and John used to be a speakeasy during the Prohibition era, but it's turned into an illegal nightclub because the law don't want to give him a liquor license. So he's just running an illegal nightclub out the back of his supermarket. So he goes down there, and it's this white guy who wants Easy to get him into the club, but Easy refuses because he says once John's people tell you no, that's it. There's no changing their mind. So he goes down there, and the door lady, Hattie, and Hattie's like, oh, hey, Easy, you know, John charging the cover now to get in. And Easy's like, why are he charging the cover? And she's basically like, oh, well, you know, last week it was this guy named Howard Green who frequents the club a lot. He got killed. He was basically beat to death. And Howard Green, he got killed behind some money. That's what they're assuming. He got killed behind some money because he said he had some business to attend to, and he left the club while Lady Day was singing, and then he turned up dead, literally right outside the club next to his car. And so John's basically started charging the cover because he don't want nobody running up in his club starting trouble. Easy, he pays the cover, he gets in, and there's this guy named Junior who runs the door. John, Hattie, and half the people in the club and Junior and Easy, they're all from Houston. They all migrated to LA together because LA was basically like the promised land to them. Like life was a little bit better out there for black people, and they found that life was a little bit better, a little bit. Like they still had to work hard and stuff. Junior and Easy, they know each other from back home in Houston. They're not really friends, but they do talk. They have some history because back in the day, Easy got into it with Junior, and Junior basically put the paws on him and almost killed him. And Mouse had to pull him off. I cracked up when I read that part of the book because I was like, Lord, Easy, what did you be getting yourself into? And so Easy and Junior, they get to talking about the good old days. Easy reveals that he got fired because he didn't want to work extra, and his boss was like, I need people here who's going to work. So his boss told him to leave and don't come back. And so Easy left because he wasn't gonna work no extra. He like, I'm tired and I'm not working extra. And he and Junior, they get to talking about the good old days in Houston. And of course, Junior gets to talk about Mouse. Mouse used to be Easy's best friend. His real name is Raymond Alexander. And the last Easy heard, he was married to this girl named Etta Mae. Easy hasn't seen Mouse in 4 years. The last time he saw Mouse was at a bar. And Mouse was basically bragging about how he killed his stepbrother. 5 years before that, Mouse had killed his stepfather. And so when the stepbrother found out, he was looking for Mouse, and so he shows up at the bar 5 years later looking for Mouse. The stepbrother told Mouse, I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna kill Easy because Easy knows about this and he didn't do nothing. Mouse and the stepbrother, they go outside and Mouse is feigning like he's scared because the stepbrother got him at gunpoint. And so Mouse, he basically pees on the stepbrother's shoes. And so when the stepbrother notices that Mouse is peeing on him, he jumps back and Mouse uses that as his time to basically kill the stepbrother and shoots him. He's not really feeling too bad about it. He's just like, it is what it is. And Easy's like, that's how Mouse has always been. He'll do something and then he'll just be like, it is what it is, and go on about his life like it didn't happen. And basically, Easy wasn't there for the killing of the stepbrother. He wasn't there for the killing of the stepfather. He found out from Mouse later on. In the confrontation with the stepbrother, Mouse, he shot the stepbrother 4 times, but the stepbrother shot Mouse once. And so Mouse almost died. And he was laughing about it to Easy. And Easy decided that was the last time he was going to talk to Mouse, and he decided to pack himself up and get on the next thing moving to LA as quickly as possible because he didn't want nothing else to do with Mouse because that freaked him out. So then Easy, he's at the club looking for Daphne. He's asking around. He's calling her by the name Delia or Dahlia because he doesn't want to use her real name in case something happens with the law and he gets connected to it after all. He don't want no connection with it, so he's using the fake name and he's asking around. Nobody's seen her. And so he goes back to sit with his friend Odell. And while he's sitting there with Odell, these 2 more people come in, Dupree and Coretta. Dupree worked with Easy at the airplane hangar, and Coretta is his girl. So Dupree, he comes in, he's all loud and boisterous. He like, hey, Easy. And he basically tell Easy, hey, the boss, he regrets firing you, and if you come down there, he's sure to give you your job back. Coretta is a flirt. She's low-key flirting with Easy, but not like to make it super obvious to Dupree. They all sit down, they get to talking, partying, hanging out, and Dupree, he knocks out drunk. And Coretta, she's upset about it because she's like, ugh, he always knocks out drunk. So Easy and Coretta, they take Dupree home, they put him to bed, and then Coretta comes on to Easy. And Easy's like, oh no, I don't want to do this because, you know, Dupree is my friend. I don't want to sleep with his girl. She basically is like, you know, I don't only keep one man. And Coretta's like, oh, well, you know, you was asking for Daphne, right? And Easy's like, what do you mean? And Coretta's like, you was using the fake name Delia Dahlia, but I know you was talking about Daphne. I made friends with her last week. She basically offers the information to Easy if he'll sleep with her. And so Easy sleeps with her multiple times, and Coretta gives Easy the information that he wants. We also find out that Dupree has been evicted from his old place and that he's staying with Coretta because he could not afford the bills on his old place because he wasn't getting paid enough. And Dupree has a better job than Easy, and Coretta is annoyed with that. And so after leaving Coretta, Easy goes back home to his house, and he has a letter from Houston. It's a letter from Mouse. Mouse basically reveals that he and Etta Mae have broken up because he cheated on her with this girl named Lucinda, and that he got Lucinda to write the letter to him, and he got Easy's address from a girl who used to live out in LA but went back home because she missed home. He tells Easy, hey, whenever's a good time for you, I want to come out and visit you, but Easy does not take the news well because he does not want to see Mouse. He decides not to answer the letter, and he goes down to the bar and gets him a drink and basically like reflects on his life. And once again reflects on the whole situation with Mouse. And we find out that Mouse killed his stepfather over $3,000 because that was his inheritance from his mom. And the stepfather basically wasn't trying to give it to him. So Mouse went over there with a guy named Clifton and they held up the stepfather, and the stepfather and them got into it. And so basically the stepfather pulled a gun on them. The stepfather shot Clifton and got Clifton, but before he could get Mouse, Mouse got him. So Mouse just blamed the shooting on Clifton because Clifton was already dead. So basically Clifton and the stepfather are both dead, so Mouse just pins the whole thing on Clifton, and he takes the money and he tells Easy about it later. And so when he tells Easy about it, he gives Easy $300, basically just as a goodwill offering. I guess that's how Easy took it, as a goodwill offering. And so the whole thing made Easy feel uncomfortable. And he doesn't want to see Mouse because he's scared of Mouse, because he feels like Mouse is dangerous. And also he likes his life in LA, but he doesn't really feel manly. He doesn't feel like a man because he feels like he always runs scared from situations. And so the reason he went into the army was to prove that he was a man. While he's reminiscing on the whole situation with Mouse, he gets a call from Albright. Albright's like, I want to see you because I want the information that I'm paying you for. And so Easy agrees to meet up with Albright and give him the information. Albright tells him to meet him at a pier. Easy goes down to the pier. It's in Santa Monica. And Easy's nervous because he doesn't like to go down there at night because there's really no black people in that area at night. So he doesn't really like to go down there at night. So he goes down to the pier to wait for Albright. And while he's down there, this white girl from out of town starts talking to him. And, she's just curious about him. She's talking to him, asking him his name and where he's from. She's from Iowa. And so basically while they're talking, her guy friends, they're like, hey, you, what you doing talking to that girl? And so basically, they start disrespecting him, calling him out his name, calling him the N-word, calling him a boy. Easy trying to diffuse the situation. The girl is trying to diffuse the situation because she's like, we were just talking. He was just telling me his name and where he was from. And the guys, they twist her words to say, oh, he was telling her where he lived. He's trying to steal our women. And so Easy, he's trying to diffuse the situation because they're all a bunch of teenagers. He's not trying to put hands on no teenagers because he's not trying to go to jail. And so basically the white boys are gearing up to jump him. And so while they're gearing up to jump him, Albright shows up. And Albright basically comes through the crowd. He pulls a gun on them and basically threatens them and tells them if they don't leave, he gonna kill all of them. And basically he and Easy talk. Easy gives Albright the information that he wants. And Easy basically learns that Daphne was last seen with a guy named Frank Green. Frank Green is a bootlegger and a hijacker. He was seen at the club that night too, that Easy was there, and he was last seen at that club a week before with Daphne. And so Easy's like, this is his apartment, this is where he lives, Daphne's probably with him. And so DeWitt thanks him for the info and basically tells him, gives him another card and like, I might have another job for you. And Easy's like, oh no, I'm not trying to take another job. And Albright's like, just keep the car just in case. And he pays Easy the rest of his money. So then Easy the next day, he goes down to the airplane hangar to get his job back. Dupree confronts him about Coretta because he's like, did you and Coretta say something to each other while I was knocked out last night? Easy lies basically to Dupree. He basically lies and tells Dupree nothing happened. And Dupree's like, okay, because Coretta, she made me some breakfast and she said she's gonna be back for dinner. I ain't seen her since. So, like, I was wondering if, like, you two got into it or something. Or, like, if you said something to her and tried to steal it from me. And Easy's like, no, nothing happened. Basically lied. And Dupree, he kind of relaxes a little bit. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have suspected you like that. But I was just checking because I ain't seen her. And so Easy, he goes into the office to talk with the boss. And basically the boss wants him to grovel for his job back. Easy was fired because it was just a bad day. The boss was having a bad day. The employees was having a bad day. He wants Easy to grovel for his job back and basically apologize for not wanting to do extra work. Easy done got a taste of being a self-employed independent man working for a man who's honest and upfront about everything. And so Easy basically tells the man, you gonna respect me. My name is Mr. Rollins. It's not Easy. The boss is like, okay, well, we don't have no openings at this time. Thank you for coming down. Maybe try and get on next time. And so basically Easy, he leaves out feeling triumphant because he stood up for himself, but he still ain't got a job. But he not worried about it because he's like, you know what? I got somebody else willing to pay me more than I make down here. So that's all right. So on his way back to the house, he gets home. He notices this car in front of his house. He goes to go to his house. Next thing you know, it's these two white men, Mason and Miller. They like, are you Easy Rollins? Easy like, yeah, what's going on? They like, come with us. Easy like, where we going? One of them punches him in the stomach and they put some handcuffs on him. And they take him down to the police station. Now, when I was reading this, I was like, these not real police. These are people posing as police to basically get the information on Daphne. I was wrong. I don't know why I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I was wrong because, first of all, this is 1940s LA. I wasn't trying to defend them. I was just like, no, these can't be real cops. Because Easy himself is like, he's been arrested, but he don't understand why he's been arrested. And he's like, these can't be real cops because we haven't gone through the procedures that we usually go through, because he's been in this situation before. We not going through the procedures of what we usually do when y'all arrest a black guy. And so basically they throw him in an interrogation room. He sits in there for a little bit, then Mason and Miller come in. They took his handcuffs off because he was willing to cooperate, because he want to find out why he down there. They keep asking him, where was he Thursday night at 5 a.m.? And Easy's like, I was with Coretta and Dupree. We got drunk, then I took them home, then I went home. And basically the cops don't like his answer. So they keep punching him. They keep beating on him, and they keep asking him, where were you on Thursday at 5 a.m.? And he keeps giving them the same answer because it's the truth, but they not believing him. And so eventually Mason gets really fed up, really starts trying to beat on the man, and Easy not having it. So he puts up a fight and basically pins Mason down to the ground. And he's like, enough is enough. And so basically Miller pulls Easy off of him, and Mason's like, give me 5 minutes with him. And Miller, he's like, no, because he realizes Easy might beat the brakes off of Mason. Because Easy was really, for the most part, just taking the beatings, because he was like, it's serious, but it's not that serious. But once he had enough, and Miller realized that Easy is not going to go down without a fight. And so he like, no, you cannot have 5 minutes with him. So they leave out the room. Easy's left in there for a little bit by himself, and then they come back and they let him go. But they won't tell him why they arrested him. Basically, Easy leave. He walking down the street to John's. And while he's walking down the street, this car pulls up next to him, and the driver's like, hey Easy, I got a guy in here who wants to talk to you. Hey Easy, I got a guy in here who wants to talk to you. Easy not going for it. He like, I've had enough of this mess, I just want to get home. And so basically the car pulls up on the curb next to him, and basically the driver gets out and he's like, look, this guy knows why you were arrested. He wants to talk to you. Easy's like, just talk to me, right? And the guy's like, yeah. So Easy gets in the car. It's this guy named Taryn, who was a mayoral candidate, but he dropped out of the race behind some shady dealings. He wants information on Daphne. Easy can't tell him nothing. So Taryn basically drops him off at John's bar. Basically, Hattie's like, oh my gosh, Easy, what happened to you? And Easy's like, oh, I got picked up. And Hattie's like, oh, does it have something to do with Coretta? And Easy's like, what about Coretta? And Hattie's like, oh, didn't you know? Coretta's been murdered. She was beat to death the same way Howard Green was. And so basically, Coretta is dead. And Dupree has been locked up because he's a suspect, and Hattie suspects that Easy was also locked up because he's also a suspect. And so he goes in there, sits down for a little bit, and he asks Odell to take him home. Odell takes him home. Odell basically advises him to just skip town and go on back home to Houston, because he's like, look, this is too much, and if I was you, I would leave and go home. And so Easy, he can't stop thinking about Coretta, because he's like, I can't believe she's dead. And so while he's trying to sleep, Junior calls him and basically tells him, oh, hey, I know about that girl named Daphne. But he basically tells Easy info he already got out of Coretta, so Easy just basically hang up the phone on him. And then he gets a call from Daphne. She has this French accent, but Easy's like, it sounds French, but it's not all the way convincing. She wants him to basically help her get to a friend's house. She needs help. She has nobody else to call. She's like, it's either you help me or I have to go to the police, and I don't want to go to the police. And basically she's like, oh, I got your number from Coretta. Coretta told me you were a good man, and so I'm asking you for help. She needs to get to Frank, but Frank has her car and she has no money, and that's why she needs Easy's help. Easy doesn't want to help because he just wants to put all of this mess behind him, but Daphne basically like begs him for help. And so Easy's like, look, I can give you money to get a cab and get you over there. And Daphne's like, yes, that works great. And so Easy basically goes over to her house to give her the money. So when he goes over there, they talk. And so Daphne basically convinces Easy to take her over to her friend Richard's house, and she grabs this old brown suitcase to take to him. So they go over there, and Richard's door is open, and Easy's like, okay, I'm gonna go in there with you because something's wrong. And so they go in there, and they find Richard dead. He's got a butcher knife in his chest. He's dead. And Daphne's like, oh my gosh, it's Richard. Richard is the drunk white guy from earlier at the bar. And Easy, he gets a little nauseous. So he gets nauseous and he falls over for a little bit to like get himself back together. So when he gets back up, he knows Daphne is gone. So he goes looking for her. He finds her outside messing with Richard's car. And he basically like, what's going on? And Daphne like, what you think going on? We gotta get up out of here. And basically, she done dropped the accent. She freaking out. She like, we gotta go. Richard dead. I don't want this tied to us. We gotta get up out of here. Let's go, Easy. And so basically, Easy's like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? Daphne like, look, don't ask questions. Let's go. I don't know what happened. I just came over here to give him the suitcase. He dead. Let's go. She puts the suitcase in Richard's car, and she basically tells Easy, look, you didn't see me. I didn't see you. We don't say nothing about this to the police. And she gives Easy this long kiss goodbye. And basically, she like, bye, Easy. And she takes off. And so Easy, of course, he gets in his car and he drives home. While Easy is on his way home, there's this voice in his head that basically gives him a pep talk and tells him to untangle this mess so he can get back to his regular life. And so Easy listens to this voice. It's really him giving himself a pep talk, but he calls it the voice. And so the voice basically first showed up when Easy was in the army in Normandy. And so we get into his time in the army and how like he had to face segregation and racism there, and like the white soldiers didn't really respect him and the other black soldiers because they felt like they were just there and they had it easy, while the white soldiers were really the ones fighting the war. But Easy was like, that's not the case, and that's why he didn't like the white soldiers, and that's why he wanted to prove himself in the war, and that's why he signed up to go to war. The voice first showed up when he was pinned down in Normandy, and basically a sniper had him pinned down, and the voice basically told him, look, you take this guy out and you don't show no fear because we ain't no punk. And so Easy listened, and since that point he's always listened to the voice. When he gets home, Albright is in his home with his two henchmen. Albright wants more information on Daphne, and Easy tells him that he was just with Daphne, and Albright, he's basically grilling him for the info. Easy gives him the info, and Albright's like, okay, I got another job for you. His focus is really on the suitcase that Daphne had. He tells Easy, I got another job for you. I need you to locate Frank Green for me. And he pays Easy again, and he warns Easy again for like the third time that he is not to be messed with. If you cross me, I'm gonna kill you. Easy stands up for himself a little bit, and he basically lets Albright know that I'm not the one either. And so after his encounter with DeWitt, Easy cannot sleep. He's nervous. He's thinking a lot about everything that's going on. So he calls Etta May, and basically he talks to Etta May and basically asks for Mouse's address so he can write him. And Etta May's like, oh well, easily broke up. And Easy's like, oh well, I'm sorry to hear that, but can you just let him know that I called and basically am looking for his address? And before Etta May can answer, he hangs up the phone. And so that's where I left off. And so I'm planning on finishing this book tonight. I'm enjoying the book so far. I like Easy. Easy makes me laugh. And I relate to him. Even though I haven't been in his exact circumstances and stuff like that, I still relate to him. He's relatable. Plus, he's from Houston and I'm from Texas. So, of course, I'm going to like him. Today is February 28th. I finished Devil in a Blue Dress about 2 days ago. So where we pick up is Easy goes to see Maxim Baxter, who works for Todd Carter. Todd Carter is the man that Daphne told Easy was the one looking for her, and Todd Carter is the president of Lion Investments. So Easy goes in there to go see Mr. Baxter, and at first, he can't get to Mr. Baxter because the secretaries are like, oh, Mr. Baxter is a very busy man. If you don't have an appointment, we can't admit you. He starts sharing Mr. Carter's personal business and basically sharing that he's looking for Daphne for Mr. Carter, and that gets him access to see Maxim Baxter because Baxter is like, you shouldn't be telling Mr. Carter's personal business. And Easy's like, well, I wouldn't have to tell his personal business if y'all would just let me see who I need to see. And so Easy makes it inside to talk to Baxter, and Baxter's like, well, whatever you have to tell Mr. Carter, you can tell me. And Easy's like, no, what I need to tell Mr. Carter is for Mr. Carter's ears only. So they go back and forth a little bit on that, and then Baxter finally talks to Carter to see if he'll talk to Easy, and Carter agrees. So Easy goes in there to talk to Mr. Carter, and when Easy gets in there, what he wants from Carter is he wants Carter to clear everything up about what's going on with Daphne and why everyone is looking for her. And so Carter, he agrees to share the information that he knows, and he reveals that basically the reason he wants Daphne found is because he wants to marry Daphne. He's in love with her, but she ran away from him and stole 30 grand, which is what was in the suitcase. And so the reason she ran away with 30 grand is because she and Carter argued because she was being blackmailed, and Carter was willing to pay the money. Something happened to where he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do with the money, so he had it brought to his house instead, and that's the money that Daphne stole because she was being blackmailed, and so she ran away to protect him. Albright, he knows about this money, and so that's why he's looking for Daphne. And Easy basically tells Carter what he's learned about Daphne's whereabouts and stuff like that, and Carter tells Easy that the white man Richard that was killed, his name is Richard McGee, and he was into illegal activities. And he also tells Easy that Daphne is from New Orleans. Carter hired Albright because Albright was known to do a job and be discreet about it, but he's willing to fire Albright and instead pay Easy to do the job of recovering Daphne for him. And so, with Easy being hired to recover Daphne, he believes that Frank is the key to everything that's going on. So he starts searching around for Frank. He goes to all the spots that Frank is known to frequent for his hijacking business. He goes to this place called Ricardo's, which is now being run by this lady named Rosetta because Ricardo is sick and he's not able to function. So Rosetta runs the place now, and Rosetta tells him that Frank is either at home or he's out working. She doesn't know where he is. So then he goes to a brothel that's run by this lady named Vernie, and there he runs into this man named Ronald who has about 10 kids, and he just feels trapped in his home because he keeps making all these babies because his wife, she's basically one of them be fruitful and multiply type of people. So she done been fruitful and multiplied about 10 times, and baby number 10 is in the stomach, and Ronald is not happy about it because he's tired and he feels like all them kids is running him crazy, they're running him ragged, and he wants to run away. And Easy basically tells him that's not right. So Ron gets drunk, and basically Easy asks Vernie if he can buy 2 cases of whiskey, and Vernie lets him know that, oh, I get my whiskey from Frank, but I don't know where he is. He takes Ron home, and Easy decides to play detective for 2 days, but he comes up with nothing. So on the third day, he goes to this barber shop that's run by this man named Ernest. Outside the shop is this man named Zeppo. Zeppo is a alcoholic, and he also has cerebral palsy, so Ernest lets him sit outside the shop, but he won't let him in the shop because Ernest's father was an alcoholic, and so Zeppo being an alcoholic triggers him, so he allows Zeppo to sit out front and beg for money. And the reason he does that is because Zeppo is his younger brother. And so Easy goes in there to get a cut and also to learn information about what's going on. There's some men in the back playing a game of craps, and one of the men is named Lenny. And so there's this other guy that comes in named Jackson, and Jackson runs in the same circles as Frank. But Jackson and Lenny have beef because Lenny believes that Jackson slept with his girlfriend, but Jackson is telling Lenny that he didn't sleep with his girlfriend. She flirted with him and that was it, but Lenny doesn't believe him, so he's trying to kill Jackson, but Ernest gets in between them and breaks it up. And so Jackson, of course, is scared, so Easy basically suggests that he and Jackson leave the barbershop. And so after they leave, Easy asks questions about Frank, but he does it in a way that's like not super obvious about what he's trying to find out. And he learns from Jackson that basically Frank hit the big time in the hijacking business, and so now he acts like he's too good to hang around with Jackson. And so Easy starts asking more questions, and Jackson gets suspicious, but Easy plays it off. And Easy tells Jackson that he's trying to buy 2 cases of whiskey, and so Jackson takes him to a place that he knows where he can get it for cheap. It's a liquor store run by 2 Polish men who were locked up in Auschwitz, but they escaped. So now they live in LA and they sell liquor, and their names are Abe and Johnny. Abe is not in the hijacking business, he doesn't approve of it, but Johnny is, and he does it secretly under Abe's nose. Jackson takes Easy over there to talk and to figure it out, and Zeppo has tagged along with them to get some liquor out of them. Easy is able to get 2 cases of whiskey for cheap, and while he's at the liquor store, he learns that Frank drops off liquor routinely every Thursday, and so he comes with the plan to confront Frank Thursday and then get the information to Albright Friday. He comes up with this plan and he buys Zeppo some alcohol, but Jackson is still suspicious because he's like, you never get your hair cut on a Wednesday, you always get your hair cut on a Thursday, and now you are trying to buy 2 cases of whiskey for a party, but you never do stuff like this, so what's going on? But Easy still plays it off, and then he goes to see Joppy. He suspects that Joppy is the one who sent Daphne to call him, and so he calls Joppy out on it, and Joppy admits that it was him because Joppy admits that he knew who Daphne was all along when it first came up, but Daphne had paid him to get Albright off her back, and he's been secretly in contact with her because Frank is his supplier and he doesn't want to mess up his business relationship with Frank. And so Joppy basically put Easy on the case to put some money in his pocket and to throw Albright off of her trail. And so Easy's like, okay, and he leaves and he goes home. And when he goes home, he gets hit over the head and dragged in the house. And when he is finally allowed to see who hit him over the head, it was Frank. Frank has learned that Easy has been asking around town for him, and Easy tries to tell Frank what's going on, but Frank's not trying to listen and he wants to kill him. He starts trying to stab Easy in the throat, but before he can, Mouse shows up and tells Frank to basically get off Easy and let him go. Mouse asks Easy what he wants him to do with Frank because Easy does not want Frank dead because he needs Frank alive to get the information that he needs, but Mouse is basically like, I want to kill him. And so Mouse, while he's waiting on Easy to make up his mind, he starts pistol whipping Frank. And so after he hits him about 3 times, Easy's like, no, let him live. And Mouse is like, no, I want to kill him. And so basically, Easy wrestles the gun away from Mouse, and while they're doing that, Frank escapes. And Mouse is upset because he let Frank escape. And Easy's like, I need him alive. They talk about the past. Easy tells Mouse that he's scared of him, and he tells Mouse that he still feels guilty about the way that Mouse's stepfather and stepbrother died. And Mouse is like, well, I didn't know that was eating you up like that, because it's not eating me up, and you weren't even there for it. But Easy's like, but it still makes him feel guilty. And so Mouse basically is like, I'll help you figure this out, and I'll just do whatever you tell me to do. And so Easy sends Mouse out to track Frank while he tries to figure out where Daphne is. But he kept some details from Mouse. He kept the $30,000 that Daphne stole to himself. He doesn't tell Mouse about it because he knows if Mouse knows about it, he's going to focus more on that. He'll even be willing to kill Easy for that type of money. And while he and Mouse are getting ready to go execute the plan, Miller and Mason show up. They show up to question Easy some more about Richard and Howard, and then they also reveal that Taryn is dead. They take Easy down to the station again, and they fingerprint him and put him back in the interrogation room. And they plan to get him with the fingerprint on the knife that they found on Richard, but they can't prove that it's him because the fingerprint doesn't match him, so they have to let him go. So they let him go, but they warn him that they'll get him for something. So basically they are plotting to get this man for something because they feel like it's too coincidental that he is mixed up in all of this, and it doesn't seem like a coincidence to them. So after he gets out, Mouse picks him up and they go over to see Junior. Easy confronts Junior because when he was at the crime scene about Richard, what he picked up off the ground was one of Junior's cheap cigarettes, so he knows that Junior was over there the night that Richard died. So he confronts Junior, and Junior basically is not trying to give no details at first. And so because he's not trying to give no details, Easy sicks Mouse on Junior because Junior's not scared of Easy, but he is scared of Mouse. And so now that Mouse basically like got a gun pointed at him, Junior starts talking, and he basically reveals that Hattie told him to take Richard home the night that he was there at the club drunk. So he took him home, and Richard basically offered to pay him some money to tell Frank that he had something on Daphne to basically blackmail her. Junior does not want to go through with it because he's scared that Richard will get him tied up with the mess somehow, so he killed Richard out of fear. And so after they learn that, Easy and Mouse, they just leave Junior alive and they go. So then Easy goes to see Dupree. Dupree is terribly beaten up from his interrogation with the police, and he's super upset about Coretta, and he vows to figure out whoever killed Coretta and basically kill them. So they all get drunk, and Mouse, of course, he's drunk himself, and he pulls his gun on Easy because he doesn't see Easy when he's drunk. He's seeing some other guy. Easy basically has to talk him out of shooting him. He knows that Mouse has extra guns on him, so when Mouse knocks out drunk, he takes one of Mouse's guns and he goes home. When he gets home, Daphne calls, and Daphne tells him to meet her at this motel that she's staying at. Easy writes Mouse a note to throw him off and tell him that he's going to this other hotel that's run by this man named Primo. And so he goes to see Daphne at her motel, and management won't let him in at first because there's no men in the rooms. But basically he convinces them to let him go talk to Daphne because he's taking her out to dinner. And he goes down there, and Daphne tells him what the plan is and gives him money to go pay her motel bills. And after they pay the motel bill, they run to Primo's to go hide out. And while they're there, Easy basically opens up about how hard everything is and how complicated Daphne has made his life with her foolishness. So while he's opening up, Daphne basically bathes him and gets him to relax and release his tension, and then she sleeps with him. And so after they sleep together, they talk. Daphne starts telling Easy what he wants to know. She tells him that Howard worked for Taryn, and that Carter did not want Taryn running for mayor, and that earlier in the book, Taryn had a boy with him when he met with Easy. It was a boy that he purchased. He purchased that boy from Richard, and Daphne used to date Richard. She tells Easy that Joppy is the one who killed Coretta and Howard. I kind of figured he was the one that did it because when Easy went to see Joppy, he was talking about how Joppy seemed kind of like nervous, and that even though Joppy was an ex-heavyweight, he described his fist as lead pipes, and he said, I have lead pipes in my pocket as well. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think Joppy's the one who's been doing the violent killings, because every time somebody dies, they would describe them as being beaten to death, almost as if they were beaten to death with a lead pipe. And I'm like, Easy wouldn't describe his hands as being like lead pipes unless there's supposed to be a clue that Joppy's the one that did it. So I was like, of course Joppy did it. That makes sense. So she reveals that Joppy did it because he got scared. Howard went to confront him, And Howard got smart with him, and so Joppy lost control. And then he killed Coretta because Coretta just knew too much and he got scared. And Joppy has not killed Daphne because Daphne has not paid him the money that she promised he would get if he basically threw Albright and Howard off her trail. And so she offers Easy $2,000 to get her to Frank instead of Carter. And she tells Easy that she's in love with Carter, but she's staying away from him to protect him. And Daphne tells Easy that she wanted him to come over because she loves him. They go out to eat, they go out to get Chinese food, and Daphne talks about her past. She talks about how she learned so much from zoo animals, and basically is during this part where she reveals that she was molested by her father when she was 13, and so she developed the habit of leaving those she loved because of that's how her father disappeared and she loved him. And Easy wants her love for himself, but he decides it's better not to go forward with that because he decides it's better to cut her off. And so after they eat, they go back to the hotel, and DeWitt is there waiting on Easy, and so Easy gets knocked out from behind again. And I'm like, Easy, this is about your third time getting knocked out from behind. What are we doing? What are we doing? And so Easy has this dream that he's fighting in the war, and Mouse is there with him trying to pull him out the war, but Easy is trying to win the battle, but Mouse is basically trying to pull him away. And so while he's there, he dreams that the ship he's on gets hit and it starts sinking, and he starts drowning. And when he wakes up, he realizes the reason he felt like he was drowning is because Primo threw a bucket of water on him to wake him up. So when he wakes up, he questions Primo on what happened. Primo tells him that Albright and Joppy came and he let them in the room because he thought they were Easy's friends. And so it was Joppy who knocked Easy out, and Daphne is also gone. So Easy goes in search of them. The voice told him not to let this go, and he starts searching. He goes to Joppy's house, but Joppy's not home. So he does some looking into Albright, and he finds him really easily. So he goes out into the woods basically, and that's where Albright's new house is. In the scene, Easy says that the neighbors is like Miller, and then it's other one, then it's Albright. I'm like, Miller? So does this mean like Officer Miller lives near Albright? So is Miller in on it? That's what I was thinking when I read it. So he gets to Albright's house and he peeks in the window, and basically Daphne don't got no clothes on, and Albright and Joppy are standing over her. Joppy also don't got no clothes on. He's stripped down to his waist. Albright is just standing there, and they basically just interrogating Daphne for the money, but she's not giving up no information. And so Easy decides to play superhero and gets into a shootout with Albright. Joppy escapes out the back. Daphne is she don't know what to do. She like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so of course Easy's in the shootout, but he don't know what he doing. So Mouse comes to the rescue. Mouse basically hits Albright for him, and Albright escapes. So basically Mouse has taking care of Joppy for him. He's got Joppy all tied up. And so they start questioning Joppy, but Joppy is basically pleading for his life, and Mouse gets sick of hearing it, so he kills Joppy. Easy is like, oh, we can split the money that I'm supposed to get paid, but Mouse is like, no, I want the money that Ruby has. And Easy's like, who is Ruby? And he wonders why Mouse keeps calling Daphne Ruby, and so Mouse reveals that he knows Daphne from way, way back before he met Easy, and he reveals that Frank and Daphne are siblings. This is when we learn that Daphne's real name is Ruby, and that she's actually a black woman who's been passing for white. And so Ruby, now that she's discovered, she basically gives up the ruse. And we also find out that Frank is dead because Mouse killed him. Mouse killed Frank, but he pinned it on Joppy. And Mouse basically forces her to split the money 3 ways. So he gets 10,000, Easy gets 10,000, and Ruby gets to keep 10,000. So Ruby goes out to wait for a cab, and Easy goes to talk to her, and Ruby tells him that Daphne was different from Ruby. Ruby is a black girl who was abused by her father, and Frank killed their father to basically stop the abuse. So Easy talks to Ruby, and Ruby basically reveals that she's going elsewhere and she's gonna put this behind her. She reveals that she's the one who killed Taryn because Taryn was molesting the little boy that he had bought from Richard, so she killed him for that, and she basically makes Easy promise to take care of the little boy, and she disappears. We find out that DeWitt died in Santa Barbara from the gunshot wound that he sustained from Mouse. Easy honors Daphne's wish, and he gives the little boy to Primo, who turns out to be an excellent father because he already has kids of his own. So he's a natural father, and he's happy to have the boy. He goes to see Carter, and he tells Carter that Daphne is gone and that she's safe and alive, and Carter, of course, is upset about it because he wanted Daphne back, but Easy tells Carter that I at least made sure she was alive. The other man would have made sure she died. And so he basically spins up a story to tell the police about what happened and has Carter back him up on it. And basically, the story he tells is that he was an operative working for Carter to figure out what happened to his $30,000. He claims that Frank and Howard were distant cousins, and they broke in to rob Carter, and they got the $30,000 and forgot about robbing Carter. And Albright was also looking for that $30,000, and so that's how he was involved. And Taryn ended up dying because one of the Greens killed him. Basically, he spins up a story to basically explain away Daphne's role in things, but still make everything make sense. And the police, they accept it, but they still question who killed Richard, and Easy's like, I don't know. And so after he leaves, Miller confronts him in the hallway, and he alludes to the fact that Easy's gonna go down for Richard's death if he don't figure out who killed Richard. And so Easy's like, well, have you checked out this guy named Junior? And basically, Easy basically throws Junior under the bus to save his own skin because he's not trying to go to jail. So after that happens, Mouse goes back to Houston, and he decides he's gonna make up with Etta because now he got some money. So he decides he's gonna make up with Etta and drop Lucinda. And Easy decides to become a private investigator, and he's talking with Odell. He's talking about some of the cases he's already solved, such as returning Ron back to his kids after Ron ran off because he got sick of it, and such as getting Ricardo's restored back to Ricardo and his sister, and basically getting Rosetta exposed for mistreating him. And so Easy decides to become a private investigator, and he's still feeling some guilt about what happened and what took place, but he and Odell decide to basically laugh it off. And that's how the story ends. I really enjoyed Devil in a Blue Dress. I gave it a 5 out of 5 because I couldn't really find a reason to give it anything lower than a 5. I really enjoyed the story. I really liked Easy. He was cool as a character, but he got on my nerves sometimes because he would be stupid at some points and he wouldn't put the pieces together. I decided to give him some slack because it was his first case before he was a private investigator, and he really didn't even want to be a private investigator at first. He kind of just stumbled into it because Joppy just kind of recommended him for a job, and he just found out he liked it, and he figured it was a way to make some money. He just kind of stumbled into it, so maybe he gets it together as the series goes along. But I really enjoyed this story. I think what I really liked the most about it was the fact that it came across like one of them stories that your uncle would tell you at a family reunion about his glory days in his life. It's super over exaggerated, and it's like he's sitting there just being all extra with it, and I think that's what made me like it the most because it was just so relatable. Devil in a Blue Dress was written and directed by Carl Franklin, and Walter Mosely served as an associate producer. Franklin was advised against doing the film as he was still on the rise as a writer-director and was told doing a black film would hinder his career, but he chose to do it anyways because it was what he wanted to do. The movie stars Denzel Washington, Tom Sizemore, Jennifer Beals, and Don Cheadle, and released on September 29th, 1995. So with that being said, let's get into my preconceived notions on this movie. I don't really have no preconceived notions of the movie because I didn't even know that this book had a movie until like 2 months ago when I was on Tubi looking for something to watch, and I seen it and I was like, hey, that's the same name as the song. And then I realized that the movie was based on that book. I was like, oh, I didn't know the book had a movie. I don't have no preconceived notions on it, but the twist in the book was spoiled for me because I was watching another movie and somebody said, oh, this person took inspiration from Devil in a Blue Dress from 1995. And I was like, oh, so that's the twist? Okay. That's what I do know about the movie, is that the twist is in the movie. My only hope for this movie is that, look, I really, really, really liked Easy Rollins. I really enjoyed his character. Even though like he was kind of stupid to me. He was kind of stupid in some areas to me, but it's okay because this was his first case before he became a private investigator. So you know what? Maybe later on in his books he gets smarter and relies less on Mouse. Because let's be honest, Easy got himself in situations he would have died if it wasn't for Mouse. Overall, I hope the movie will be good. I will be rating this on 2 separate scales. The first is how does it do as an adaptation of the source material, and the second is how does it do as its own story. The reason I'm doing it like this is because sometimes an adaptation of a work can be straight up trash, but can be amazing in its own right as a story. Also, realistically, there will be things cut from an adaptation for any reason, so I look at how well did the film do at working around what was cut. And I also look at what was added because sometimes things that were added bring fresh and new flavor to a story, or offer additional insights and sometimes even improves on the events of the book. Therefore, I'm looking at how well was the adaptation done, how enjoyable is the work in its own right, and what was added to enhance the story. I finally had a chance to sit down and watch the Devil in a Blue Dress movie, and I'm ready to talk about it, so let's talk about it. So, as an adaptation, I gave this movie adaptation a 3.5. But as a movie, it's a 5. As a movie, it's a 5. I enjoyed the movie. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. What I really enjoyed about this movie, it was so stylistic. It was stylized like a film noir. And you could tell. because the man who made it, Carl Franklin, he wrote and directed it, and he said he was a huge fan of film noirs growing up, and it shows because this movie was a film noir. It was stylized like a film noir, and I enjoyed that. I loved it. So let's talk about my notes. And some of these changes are gonna be nitpicky, and I'm only bringing it up because I noticed them. And some of these changes are not really like bad changes. They were just moved around in the narrative to make the movie make more sense, and I'm not mad at them for doing that. A lot of these changes are things that make it more clear what's going on in the story. So I will say that. Before y'all come for me talking about some, oh, Ronald, you being nitpicky. I know I'm being nitpicky. I'm just letting you know that this was a change. And like I said, sometimes I like the changes. The movie, it starts with this intro. It's like a painting, and it has like this jazz type of song over it, and it's just like, it's like a painting of black life in 1940s LA, and I really enjoyed it. It looked so cool, and it was really good. It was just really good. The scene where Easy goes to get his job back, that's moved up right to the beginning of the movie. I liked it. I liked that they moved that up to the beginning of the movie because it gives a stronger sense of the type of character that Easy is and what he will and will not tolerate. One thing I did notice is that the movie made it more obvious that Joppy and Albright had a deeper relationship than what was portrayed at the beginning of the book. Easy being picked up for the interrogation is moved because in the book it's of course after he's coming back from trying to get his job back, but since they moved that scene up to the beginning of the movie, he's coming home from somewhere at night, and just know that they changed it. And the interrogation scene is toned down, which I didn't mind them doing. Easy only got punched in the face once, and that's because he wasn't expecting it, and the next time was when he decided he wasn't gonna have it. So they toned down the interrogation scene, and also in the interrogation scene is where Easy learns that Coretta died instead of learning it from Hattie. There's this one point in the movie where Easy, he just got back from the interrogation, and like his head is still bleeding from when Mason or Miller, one of them, from when one of them hit him upside the head, and like he get home and his head is still bleeding, and he even fell asleep. His head is bleeding all over the pillow. I'm like, Easy, patch your head up. What you doing? You just walking around with this piece of cloth to your head, like you ain't got nothing to patch it up with? Come on now. Bleeding all over the sheet and pillows. What you doing? So of course the confrontation with Joppy is moved up. Easy goes to confront Joppy about having Daphne call him. All I know is Easy bust out a hammer and started hammering on the marble bar top. And when I saw that, I was like, because in the movie we hadn't got the explanation of the marble bar top and how important that was to Joppy, but because I knew how important it was from reading the book, when he started hitting that bar top, I was like, oh my gosh, Easy's hitting the bar top with a hammer. He know how important that bar top is to Joppy. But hey, it worked. It got Easy what he wanted, which was an explanation. In the book, Easy is more forgiving towards Joppy for not telling him about Daphne, but in the movie, Easy is very upset with Joppy and kind of mad at him for the rest of the movie because of it. There's this man in this movie who, like, he's not in the book, but they added him in the movie, and it's this man, he keep going around cutting down trees, and Easy keep telling him, stop cutting down people's trees. And I'm like, why is this man cutting down trees? Is he hoping to get paid for this? Cutting down people's trees? The biggest changes were made to really what was going on with Daphne. That's where a lot of the changes happened. The way Easy meets Daphne is different. Like I said in the book portion, they met at her house and she wanted him to take her to see Richard in the book. In the movie, it's changed to him meeting her at a whites only hotel, so he has to be snuck into the hotel, and she wants him to take her to see Carter, but before she goes to see Carter, she wants to go see Richard first. So Taryn, his name is changed to Terrell for some reason. His backstory is kind of changed a little bit. The way it worked in the book, Carter knew Daphne was black. He did not care. He still wanted to marry her. Carter was the one who hired Albright, and I was confused on how Taryn fit into all of it. That's one thing I will give the movie. The movie made it clear how Taryn fit in the book. Taryn, he also knew that Daphne was black, and basically he was going to blackmail her with the information so that he could get back into the mayoral race. Because in the book, he dropped out of the race due to Carter. He dropped out because his pedophilia had been discovered. And so he was going to use the fact that Daphne was black to get himself back into the race. But of course, Daphne killed him. But in the movie, it's changed, and that's the only reason I was able to understand it. In the movie, Carter does not know anything. He doesn't know that Daphne is black, and he didn't hire Albright. Instead, Albright is working for Terrell. Terrell is the one who hired Albright to find Daphne because Daphne has proof that he's a pedophile, and that's the reason he dropped out of the race, is because Daphne had that proof and she blackmailed him into dropping out of the race. And so Terrell hires Albright to find Daphne to get the proof back from her and basically take care of all of that. And so basically Carter has no idea about anything that's going on. And the $30,000 was changed. In the book, the $30,000 was to give to his employees for like a bonus, and Daphne stole it and Carter didn't mind. But in the movie, the $30,000 is from Carter's family to basically pay her off to disappear because Carter wants to marry her, but the family pay her $30,000 to leave town, and so she takes the $30,000, but she's still planning on marrying Carter. And so because Carter doesn't know anything about Daphne, when Easy goes to see him, he's all confused and he's not as cooperative as he was in the book. In the movie, when Albright comes to confront Easy about Daphne, and basically Albright forces his way into Easy's house, Easy is upset about that because that's his house, and basically he's just been shown that even in his own house, he still can't be the one in charge. And so because of that confrontation, he willingly calls Mouse. Mouse did not know where Easy was in the movie, so Mouse had no way to contact him. Easy just basically got in contact with Etta Mae, and Mouse and Etta Mae are not divorced in the movie. Easy just called him up and basically told Mouse to come out there because I need your help. And in the book, he willingly got into contact with Mouse too, but in the book, Easy, of course, does not want to see Mouse. He's trying to stay away from Mouse. Whereas in the book, Mouse found out from the girl that went back to Houston, and she told him that Easy was out there, and so that's how he got in contact with him. And so then Easy has to go in search of Frank Green because that's what Albright wants him to do. That search is a hot mess, and it's not as successful as it was in the book. It was barely successful in the book, and the only reason he found Frank is because Frank found him and got the drop on him, which in the movie was changed to the man cutting down all the trees warned Easy that Frank was there trying to get him, and so Easy managed to be able to put up a fight against Frank. And so when Mouse shows up, and he does what he does, getting Frank off of Easy. And then of course Easy's like, don't kill him, don't kill him. And so when Frank is not cooperating with Easy, Mouse shoots him. Mouse actually shot him in the movie. I was like, oh shoot. And that's what causes Frank to run off because he just got shot. Mouse doesn't know Frank, and therefore he doesn't know Daphne. So the reveal on Daphne being black is done differently in the movie. In the movie, Daphne reveals it to Easy because Easy's about to take her to the police because he's like, I'm wrapped up in 2 murders. The police are trying to pin them on me. So you going down there because you the one that's the cause of all this. And so Daphne, in desperation, reveals that she's black because Easy keeps accusing her of cheating on Frank. She's like, I'm not cheating on Frank. Frank is my brother. And so that's how the reveal comes out. I like that reveal better because it makes Easy seem more competent. Easy is working with the facts that he thinks he has up to that point, so it makes sense that he would think that Daphne is cheating on Frank, and now Frank is trying to take him out. And it's like, I like that reveal better than how in the book, Easy didn't know nothing. He didn't know nothing, and it was Mouse who basically had to tell him, oh yeah, she's black. But because of that, the $30,000 is not a thing to Mouse. Mouse instead ends up doing all of this for $7,000. Junior is changed from being the one who killed Richard, and the person who killed Richard was Albright. And Albright did it because Daphne had evidence that Terrell was a pedophile. And so the evidence was a bunch of pictures and a letter. And so Daphne had the letter delivered to Richard. She went and picked up the letter from Richard and delivered it to Coretta. Albright thought Richard had the evidence, so that's why he went to pay Richard a visit. And so Junior is not the one who killed Richard in the movie. Howard Green is completely cut. So like all these people being beat to death and looking like it was done with a lead pipe, it's only limited to Coretta. She basically dies in the same way. Joppy beat her to death. Coretta got beat to death in the book because she knew too much and Joppy got scared. In the movie, Coretta got beat to death because Daphne sent Joppy to go scare her, but she didn't intend for him to kill her. So Daphne is the reason Coretta got killed in the movie, whereas in the book, Joppy just did it because he got scared and Coretta knew too much. And Joppy is not working with Albright in the movie. He sets Easy up with the job, and he knows where Daphne is, and he's working with her to throw Albright off her trail. But he's not working with Albright to get the money because Albright is not looking for the money. Albright is looking for pictures. So the whole money storyline is replaced with the letter and pictures, which means Joppy is no longer working with Albright to get the money. Joppy is proof that all skinfolk are not kinfolk. The whole way that Easy gets Daphne back is changed. Easy takes Joppy hostage because Joppy knows how to get to Albright's place in the woods. So Easy takes him hostage, and so Joppy is not involved with Albright's kidnapping of Daphne. He's not working as a henchman in the movie. He just basically is brought in because he pissed Easy off, and Easy like revenge time. So they go out there. Easy is actually successful in the shootout in the movie. Like, he actually ends up taking somebody down, unlike in the book where he was basically useless. And Joppy, of course, dies, but he's not shot to death by Mouse. Instead, Mouse chokes him to death because Easy told him don't shoot him. And so Mouse was like, well, you told me not to shoot him, so I choked him. And he's like, why did you leave me with him if you didn't want him to die? And Mouse and Easy, they never have their confrontation of Easy telling Mouse basically, oh, this is eating me up, this is eating me alive. They never have that confrontation, they never have that talk. Mouse just kind of leaves, but Easy is still kind of feeling like ambivalent towards him. Whereas in the book, they leave on good terms, and Easy is glad to have Mouse as a friend, whereas in the movie, Easy is kind of like still wary of having Mouse as a friend. And so, of course, Carter didn't know, and so when Daphne goes to tell him, Carter is like, he loves her, and he says that he loves her, but Daphne realizes that he doesn't love her enough to accept her as a black woman who's passing for white. And so she leaves him, and she goes back to Frank, who made it out alive. Frank didn't die in the movie. He just got shot, and that was it. And so Frank and Daphne, they leave town. The voice is cut, and Easy's background in the war is reduced to Joppy telling Albright that Easy is a war vet. We don't really get anything of Easy's time in the war in the movie, or how that affects him and how he thinks about things. And so a lot of his views on like what it was like to be a black soldier in a segregated army, a lot of that and how that helps shape his experience is also cut. And the voice is completely cut. There is no mention of it or how it helps Easy, because like I said in the book review, the voice is basically Easy giving himself a pep talk, but he just calls it the voice. And so the movie just kind of has it as him doing everything on his own without the voice's help. Taro ended up living in the movie, and Easy was successful in getting the pictures to Carter, and Carter was successful in using those pictures to get Taro to stay out of the mayoral race. And because of that, Carter was able to get back in the mayoral race, and his likelihood of being the next mayor is very high because he's basically running unopposed. The movie ends with Easy talking to Odell, and Easy is just happy to be part of a community and decides to be a PI, and that's how it ends. Like I said, I gave this movie a 3.5 for adaptation because they changed a lot. But what I will say is the changes were not bad, and they helped make the book make sense. They helped me understand some things in the book, but I did have to give it a 3.5 because they did change a lot. But they still followed the storyline of the book pretty well. So it's like the main plot was good, but a lot of the how we got there was changed. And I didn't mind because it helped make the story make a little bit more sense. And also because Taron and his role finally made sense to me. And you know what? This is something I was wondering, because I'm like, the Easy Rawlins books were very successful. I know they were successful because I've heard that name. And I know this is the first in a series. And so I'm like, why did it only get one movie? It only got one movie because the movie was not a box office success. I'm like, how's it not a box office success? This was supposed to be the first in a series of movies. We were supposed to get an Easy Rawlins franchise, and we didn't. We only got one movie because it was not a box office success. And I'm like, ugh, we could have got a franchise out of this. Finding out it was supposed to be a franchise, Easy not confronting Mouse and feeling ambivalent towards him makes sense, because that's probably something that would have been brought up in future movies. Apparently, the studio that did the movie bought the rights to all 3 books, so obviously the intention was to make more than one movie. But because the first one didn't meet expectations, they scrapped it. Easy Rawlins should have been as big as Philip Marlowe. I wish we got more than one movie. I would have watched all of the movies because this movie was so well done and I enjoyed it so much. And I'm so glad that Carl Franklin, when people told him, oh, don't make this movie because it's a black movie, I'm so glad he was like, no, I'm going to make this movie because I want to make this movie. I'm glad because he did a really good job. Everybody who worked on this movie did a really good job. And I enjoyed it. I'm going to need y'all to stop downplaying black films. Just because the cast is black, just because it's done by a black writer and director, just because it's a movie targeted as black people does not mean it's a movie that's lesser than. It's still a good movie. Usually our movies be amazing. They be great. They just don't get the mass successful appeal because y'all don't want to go see it because it's black. I very much enjoyed this movie. The adaptation gets a 3.5. The movie itself gets a 5. Thank you for tuning into this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to check out more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time.